All right, welcome back everybody. Today we are going to talk about taking our death investigation calculations a little bit further. Last time we discussed determining PMI, post-mortem interval. And if you weren't here for that, make sure you check Schoology. I do have the video for that linked as an explanation. But for today, we're going to take it a step further. Once we determine how long a body has been deceased, how do we determine their time of death? So TOD, time of death. So here's an example. It says a body is found at 3:45 p.m. on Thursday, July 23rd. When found, the body is 91.5 degrees Fahrenheit. How long has the person been deceased, and when did they die? So the first step is to find the post-mortem interval. How long have they been dead? And if you'll recall, we talked about some assumptions, one of them being that a body will begin at 98.6 because that's your normal body temperature when a person is alive. And then we're going to subtract the 91.5 to get a change in temperature, in this case, of 7.1. Now, how long does it take a person to drop in temperature by 7.1 degrees Fahrenheit? Well, if we're in the first 12 hours, which we are, because remember, it takes 12 hours for the body to get to 81.8 degrees Fahrenheit. And again, this is all from last time, so this should be a review if you were here last time. But in the first, since we're above 81.8 degrees Fahrenheit, we only have to worry about the first rate of cooling, which is 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit per hour. So what I'm going to do is take 7.1 degrees Fahrenheit, which is my change from down here, and I'm going to divide it by my initial rate of cooling, which is 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit per hour. And that's going to give me about 5.1 hours that have passed. Okay, and so that's part of the problem. That's my PMI. I do need to convert it to minutes as well. So if I take just the 0.1 part, so obviously the 5 part can stay the same. But to get 0.1 hours into minutes, I need to take 0.1 times 60, which is of course just 6. So my final answer would be 5 hours, 6 minutes in terms of post-mortem interval. This is how long this person has been deceased. Now, the question of when did they die is a little bit different. If we look at the time that they were found, 3:45 p.m. on Thursday, July 23rd, the person died 5 hours and 6 minutes before that. Okay, so we just have to do a little bit of subtraction. And as you can see here, it says if your time is in PM, it can be helpful to convert it to military time. And military time is just like, if you've ever heard in a movie or something like that, where they refer to time as like 1,500 hours, 1,800 hours. It just means if you're above 12, if you're past noon, well, actually it's if you're beyond 1 o'clock, 1 p.m., you just add 12 to that. So 1 p.m. would be 1,300 hours. And, 2 p.m. would be 1,400 hours. You're just adding 12 if you're in the p.m. If you're in the a.m., it doesn't matter. Excuse me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 3:45 p.m. and I'm going to add 12 to that. So 3:45 plus 12 means that if we're in military time, we're going to refer to that as 15:45. Okay, so that's the same thing as 3:45 p.m. It's just 3 plus 12, and then I just carry down the 45 minutes. All right, so this is when the body was found. The person died 5 hours and 6 minutes before that. And however you want to do this, if you want to do this like a math problem, like I have it set up there, you can, or you can do it in your head, or just, whatever works for you. So, whatever gets you there is fine. But it looks like this person died at 10:39. So I'm just subtracting my minutes. 45 minus 6 is 39. 15 minus 5 is 10. Now, since we're in military time, I don't have to worry about, I don't have to worry about military time anymore because I'm before noon, right? So I'm just gonna say this was AM, 10:39 AM, and that is on July 23rd. And there's my final answer. Okay. There you go. All right, let's try one more example. This one's going to be a little bit tougher because the body is a little bit cooler. So it's going to require both temperature change rates. So go ahead and write this one down. All right, and let's go ahead and give this a shot. All right, so first things first, is it below 81.8? And of course the answer is yes, it is. So it has definitely been, this person has been deceased for 12 hours already, because it takes 12 hours to get from 98.6 down to 81.8, right? So that has already happened. The question is, how much more? And then that's going to give me my total. Okay? So what we have to do is, once we've made it down to 81.8, apparently this person has gone down another couple of degrees. So we're at 79.2. I should be labeling this with degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and it looks like this person has been deceased for 2.6, or I'm sorry, has dropped in temperature by 2.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and so if it's, the change is 2.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and since that's after 12 hours, we're not going to divide by 1.4, we're going to divide by 0.7 degrees Fahrenheit per hour. And so 2.6 divided by 0.7 is going to give me about 3.7 hours. So this person has been dead for a total of 15.7 hours, right? Now my PMI would be I could change this 0.7 into minutes by just saying 0.7 times 60, and that is going to give me about 42. So 42 minutes. So we could say as our PMI, postmortem interval is 15 hours, 42 minutes. Okay, so that's the PMI. The time of death for this particular problem is going to be a little bit trickier because the person was found at 3:20 a.m. and apparently the death occurred at 15 hours, almost 16 hours prior. So it's going to be on the previous day. It's going to be on March 3rd instead of March 4th. Okay, so let's talk about how you might do this. And if you have your own way of doing this that makes more sense to you, that's fine. Essentially, we're just subtracting time, but that can be tricky, right? So the way I'm going to show you is I'm going to go ahead and draw a little timeline to kind of picture what's happening. So here we are at 3:20 on March 4th. So we're going to call this 3:4. Now, first we have to go from 3:20, and this is AM, so we have to go back in time to midnight. So we'll make a little line here, and this represents midnight, or if we think about military time, 2400. It's the end of the previous day. Or I guess actually technically 23:59 would be the end of the previous day, but you get the idea. This is going to make the math easier. And then we have to go back another pretty big chunk of time. And all of this together is going to be our 15 hours and 42 minutes. Okay? And so the question is, we already know it's 15 hours and 42 minutes prior. The question is, A, what time is that? That's 15 hours and 42 minutes earlier. But we also have to figure out, okay, we know 3 hours and 20 minutes of it is on March 4th. How much is the rest so that we can go back on March 3rd by that much? So one way to do it is to turn that 3:20 a.m. into decimal. So 20 minutes divided by 60 is exactly 1/3. So I'm just going to round and call that 0.3. Okay? So I'm going to say that this body was found at, and this sounds kind of funny, but the body was found at 3.3. Okay? So 3 hours, or 3.3 hours into March 4th. All right? Now my total time, if I'm thinking in decimals, we did that up here, 15.7. So what I'm going to do is subtract, squeeze this in here, 15.7 minus 3.3. Because of my 15.7 hours PMI, 3.3 of it occurred on March 4th. The rest occurred on March 3rd. So 15.7 minus 3.3 is 12.4. 12.4 hours. So all we have to do now is go back in time 12.4 hours on March 3rd. Okay? So if I think of midnight as being 2400, or just 24 hours, so 24, we'll just say 24.0 minus 12.4 gives me 11.6. Right? Okay? And so it's going to be 11 something a.m. on March 3rd. And then the only question becomes, all right, 11.6, what is 0.6 of 60? And that's going to be 36 minutes. Okay? So we've gone back in time. We've gone back in time 12.4 hours, which leaves us at 11:36 a.m. on March 3rd. So again, I know that's a lot. We're converting them, well, in this case we didn't convert to military time, but we're converting to decimals and then back into minutes. We're drawing a little picture, whatever helps you. The main thing is once you get this PMI that we got up here, whether it's in decimal or minute, hours and minutes, can you get back the proper amount of time? And of course you need to show your work. If you did it like I did, obviously that's pretty straightforward, but if you have your own way of doing it, just make sure that you are showing your work as you do these problems.